We're all used to seeing content displayed in grids. All of the page builders, including Gutenberg, come with some basic way to display content listings. These are not all created equal. Some only allow you to display post content, while others are flexible enough to also use with custom post types. Some let you modify the query to include or exclude items based on taxonomy. Less frequently, you can use them with custom fields. Only a few of them, however, provide front-end filters for fast searching. These filters, sometimes called facets, are a huge convenience when the user needs to narrow down the options. Hi, this is David McCann for WebTNG, and in this video I'm going to look at WP Grid Builder, which is one of the few plugins that provides all these features and goes beyond the basics. WP Grid Builder is a premium plugin. There is no free version available in the WordPress plugin directory. It has built-in support for Gutenberg. It also has built-in support for WooCommerce and Easy Digital downloads. It works with the Search WP and Relevancy search tools, and it natively supports advanced custom fields. It also works with Polylang and WPML. In addition to the built-in support, there are additional integrations provided through add-ons. There's an Oxygen and an Elementor add-on for these page builders. There's a LearnDash add-on, which provides blocks for displaying course information. There's a Maps add-on for displaying markers and facet filters. And there's a caching component. If you're not using one of these builders that has direct integration, then you could also use shortcodes that the WP Builder plugin provides for displaying grids and facets. The shortcode method also lets you use grids and facets with regular WordPress archives, assuming the theme uses the standard WordPress queries. WP Grid Builder is offered in annual subscription packages for 1, 3, and unlimited sites, with a renewal discount. There's an occasional sale, and a couple of times they've offered a lifetime package, but these are only available for a short time. I have here a testing site using the free Cadence theme, and I've loaded it up with a bunch of posts that have different categories. I also have a custom post type called Books. The Books custom post type has a custom taxonomy, genres, and it has 3 custom fields: author's name, author's photo, and a link to the author's website. You can see that I have WP Grid Builder installed already. And when you install it, you get a new admin area that has a number of screens. On the dashboard, you have a place where you enter your license, where you can export content, where you can import content, and then some system information which might be useful for troubleshooting. Then there are several screens. One for all grids. This is where you can see the grids you created or create a new one. All cards, the same. You can see the cards you've created or add a new one. And a card is basically your layout for an item in the grid. Then there's an all facets screen where you can see the facets you've created or create one. There's an add-on screen where you can install an add-on directly within WordPress. You don't have to go and download it. And then there's a settings area. And the settings has 4 tabs. The general settings, you can delete all the data on uninstall. You can add post format support, display post options, display term options. There's the option to render blocks in the Gutenberg editor. There's some facet and index options and some asset and cache options. And one of the things about these settings is you notice this little information icon next to each one. If you click on it, then you get a tooltip that tells you what it's about. Here's where you can set your default color schemes. On the settings media screen, you can set the image sizes for your site, and some themes add image sizes. But here's a place for convenience where you can create your own image sizes in case you need to use particular image sizes with your grid. And when you create ones here, they apply to all the images you upload from that point on. So there's a note here that if you need to use images that were already uploaded, then you might have to use a plugin like Regenerate Thumbnails. So WP Grid Builder comes with its own Lightbox option, but it also allows you to use one of these other plugins if you prefer that. So those are the settings. Let's get started. I believe that when you create your grid, you're going to need to have a card created already and your facet to go with the grid. So I think the order of operation is first review your settings, then create cards, then create facets, and then create your grid. So I'm going to start with cards. And let's see what creating a card from scratch looks like. When you create a card, you go into an editor, and it looks pretty sophisticated. On the left side, you can give it a name. You can choose a card for use in masonry or one to use in Metro justified grids. You can align the card vertically or horizontally, and you can position the content top, bottom, or both, or left or right if it's horizontal. You can enable or disable different card layers. So here we have the media layer, the media overlay, and the card footer. And then you can set the width of the card and turn on responsive fonts. Then there's another tab for blocks, and these are the elements that you can use on your cards. So you see that there's basic post fields, user fields, taxonomy fields, button and icon blocks, and then custom fields or raw content. Custom fields will allow you to insert advanced custom fields. Up here you have a drop down that lets you pick the section of the card you want to work with. And here's some place where you can switch modes if you want to preview your card or have it in edit mode. Then when you hover over the card, there's a settings area here. If you want to set up a link for the card as a whole, for the appearance of the card, and for animations. And then over here, if you hover to the right, there's a context menu for editing the layer or editing these drop areas. When I first tried to create a card, the first thing I looked for in this list was for the featured image, because I wanted to add the featured image. And it took a while for me to realize that this blue area is the featured image. And so what these drop areas are doing here are giving you options to put the fields onto an overlay of the featured image. So anyway, that's kind of how that works. So this is the image, this is the body area, and this is the footer. So I'm going to try to drag and drop a block, and you notice that doesn't work. So even though it says drop area, the only thing you can do is click to add, and it adds it at the top. If I go here and choose body, it's not possible to add it there. So the way you do these, they get added to the top, and then you have to move them down. And when you click on one of the fields or blocks, you get a settings pop up, and notice at the bottom you can trash it, you can duplicate it, or move it up or down. So I'm going to delete the extra one, and then I guess move this one down. You can add a custom class, you can set the tag, you can change the field source, and you can change what the field is. You can set an action, so you can redirect to the single page, for instance, or you can open it in a lightbox. This is where you set the display options, your style options, for the regular state or the hover state, and then here are your animation options. So let's see, I have post title. Next, I guess I'd like the author avatar and post author and the publication date. And so it just adds them like this. So I guess I have to move them down. Now, ideally, I'd like these to be all on one line. And I noticed at the bottom here, there's a snap to grid option, which, displays a grid here. So I'm going to try dragging this up and putting it in the grid, but I can't really do that here. I was thinking maybe I could do that. So when I look at these, I wonder, do I need to make a div and then float these in the div somehow? I did check the YouTube channel and the documentation, there's not really a step-by-step on how to do this. There is documentation, but it's not step-by-step. So I guess next I want an excerpt and a read more button. Lightbox and play button, social share, or icon. Would that be this? So it's not that one because this has an action already applied to it. Let's try previewing it. And it doesn't add a read more by default. So I see a raw content here where you can add HTML. Maybe that's what you need to do. Oh, that added a read more. Okay, so you get the idea how you do this, and let's preview it. So it'd be nice to have a guide for this. But at this point, I want to go and take a look at the demos and kind of see how those are put together. Before going to look at a demo, just wanted to point out there is this CSS tab. The third tab is a CSS tab where you can add your own style, custom style for the block. So I'm not going to save my changes. I'm going to go back to all cards. When you click one, it just selects it. I guess for import, you don't really have a preview. And I did look on the website to see if there's a preview of what these look like there and didn't see that. So I think what I'm going to do is import them all. And let's try that. So that was pretty quick. Oh, so when you hover over some of them, you get some hover animations. So that's nice. And let's look for kind of a traditional type of card. This one looks pretty traditional, amber. So I'm going to use that one. You can start as a favorite, export it, trash it, duplicate it, or edit it. So I think I'll duplicate this one. Amber 2. Okay, here it is. So now let's go in and edit, and I'll rename this. And I'm happy with this masonry, happy with vertical. This all looks fine to me. So one of the questions I had was, how did they get these to line up? Kind of reverse engineering these blocks, because these are 2 blocks that are lined up. So let's see. So they made it position relative inline block. Okay, so that's how they did that. So I know, or you know, for the future. And let's look at that again. Oh, it does. It shows, see where there are dots, those are ones that have been adjusted. So that's nice. You can kind of see where changes have been made already. All right, well, this is good for me. So I'm just going to save this, and it shows us down here it's been saved. Let's go back to the all cards. There it is. Okay. So I think the next thing we need to do is create a facet. Here are some demo facets. I'm going to do the same thing again and import them all. And then I guess I'll duplicate this one and rename it. Go in and edit. This will be, I'm on a filter by category and give it a slug. And the title, this is optionals displayed above the facet. Okay, and then these are read only. This is going to be the generated CSS class and the generated shortcode. Okay, save changes. Go to behavior. So these are the different actions. You can use a filter, a loading action, a sorting action, an apply action, or a reset action. And then it comes with these filter types. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 13 filter types. So that's pretty good. And I think what I want is a drop down. Okay, so when you choose your filter type or probably your action, you get different options down here. So that's exactly what I want. Taxonomy categories. It's not hierarchical. I don't want to exclude any. And I'm thinking that it's going to include them all by default. And I don't want to show children. I don't want to show empty choices. But the count sounds good. And then I want to order them by the name. And the drop down, the placeholder would be select. Okay, so I want to save. Now I think we're ready for the grid. So they have a blog demo, a portfolio demo, and e-commerce, which I guess would be for WooCommerce maybe, or Easy Digital Downloads. I'm going to import them again. Seems to be a big time saver. I'll duplicate the blog demo and edit that, and I'll call it my post grid. These are read-only again. Error messages look good. So I guess we just go through this as kind of a list. So I want to do posts. We have the option for taxonomy or users, number per page, offset by, order by post date. I guess that's okay. Here's where you choose the post type and published, filter by authors and include or exclude. And then, yep, I want any taxonomy terms. Not going to use custom fields on this one, so I'll save that. Then media formats. So if no post formats are selected, only images will be displayed. That's what I want, I think. There's an option for the first media content. Mine have ideally a featured image, but here we can add a default if one of the posts doesn't have a featured image. So I'll choose an image as a default. It's nice. You can override the image ratio, and here you can set the thumbnail sizes. So that looks good. Layout, yeah, I want to go with masonry, but you can choose metro or justified. Horizontal, fit into rows, equal height columns, and then here's your responsive option. 3 columns on desktop, 2 on tablet, 1 on mobile. So that looks good. So you could set it up as a carousel or slider. Grid builder. Okay, so it says here we can use the Gutenberg blocks or shortcode or widgets to add these. And so I think this is mainly for if you want to use shortcodes. Here's my filter by category facet, and then the demo ones. So the only thing I'm not sure about here is if I need to add pagination down here and maybe the facet on top. I can come back here if need be, but I think I'm going to skip this for now. Try to use the blocks. Default card for post grid. Yep. Okay. All right. So those are my defaults. And this is kind of cool. You could have a different card for different post formats. So you could have one for a quote, different card for an image, for a video. That's, I think, really cool because you have different type of content. So that would make sense. And then you can set some colors here also. Okay, so let's save that. Animations, looks fine. Loading, it's got a clock, I guess that's okay. And then customization, you can enter custom CSS or JavaScript. All right, I like those fine. Let's see what the preview looks like. Okay, that's good. So now let's go and add a new page. Here there are 2 new blocks. There's a facet block and a grid block. So I guess I want the category filter at the top. Select a facet. Filter by category facet. Select the grid, my post grid. And then let's add the grid and my post grid. So publish that. Let's go view the page. Awesome. Let's see if this works. So there are 4 personal ones. Yep, so that works. Let's check that the pagination works. Oh, okay, so let's fix that. And let's try going back to the grid builder here. Let's add pagination here and set it centered. And now let's go view that page. And here's the pagination. Okay, so that was pretty easy. I remember there was that setting to render the blocks in Gutenberg. Let's try that out before we move on. I'm just curious to see if that works. Ah, so that's nice. So it shows the blocks in Gutenberg. So the next thing I want to do is to go and test out Elementor. If you remember, we have Elementor installed. So let's try out that integration. And we'll install the Elementor add-on. And now let's create a new page for an Elementor test. We'll edit it with Elementor. And here we have two widgets. So we have facet and grid. See if it works the same way. Filter by category, my post grid. And now let's add the other one. And we'll select my post grid. And let's update. And let's go take a look. So this worked the same way. So that's nice, that's easy. So there's one other thing I wanted to do. I wanted to see if we can make a faceted grid for books. There are a couple things about the books that'll be different. One is that we have a custom taxonomy, genres. The other is that the featured images are the portrait orientation instead of kind of the standard landscape. And then the third thing is that we have author's name, and I'm wondering if we can create a facet to search by or filter by author. Let's try this out. First thing I'm going to do is go back to cards. And what we saw is that, when you start with an example, it's pretty fast. So I'm going to duplicate this one. Let's edit it. And let's name it card for book grid. And so this will look funny because it's portrait. You'd have like a really huge image here. So let's try making it horizontal and switching the image to be on the left and the content on the right. Then we can adjust the media width here. So let's take it down to be something like 25% more or less, which would be kind of about what the book cover image looks like. So card sizing 1,000 pixels. So it's going to be pretty wide. I think only one per row. Let's save that. Let's go to our facets. Do the same thing again. Let's duplicate and edit, and we'll do filter by genre, and this will be have a class slug of genre filter, whoops, and a label of filter by genre. Okay, save that. And then under behavior, filter drop down is good and taxonomy is good, but now we want genres, so that's an easy switch. Everything else looks good. Let's save that. So we have our facet. Get the idea when you're working from a demo or from a pre-existing one, duplicating a pre-existing one, this goes really fast. I wanted to add a facet for author to filter by author. So let's duplicate this one and edit it. And this will be filter by author. Filter by author label. Save that. And now in behavior, drop down is fine. I don't want to do taxonomy. I want to do a custom field. Yeah, it's a post field. Author's name. Okay. Looks good. Let's save that. Same thing. Let's duplicate this. Let's edit it. So I'll rename this one to be my book grid. Okay, save that. Content query. So it's not posts. It's going to be books. So that's good. So that looks like everything there. I don't think I need to change that. Masonry is fine. But they're 1,000 pixels across. So I think I want to bring this down to one column for all sizes. Save that. Don't want carousel. And now I think that's okay. We want the card for books. That looks good. Animated loading, customization, so we don't need any of those. All right, let's go back and add a new page. I think we're ready. So let's add a column. And on this side, we'll add the genre facet. And on this side, we'll add the author facet. And then let's add the grid. Nice. Let's publish this and go view the page. Okay. So that's all good. Let's see. So there's only one historical fiction. Yep. And John Grisham has 3 books. So that all works. Looks good. Let's go back and make sure we have pagination at the bottom. Yep. All right, so Simple Simon looks good. It's flexible for use with custom post types with different types of media. I'm really liking this. Let's see, one other thing I can show you here is if we go back to the product website, let's take a quick look at the documentation. They're getting started, guides, FAQs. So 2 things here. One is they have some PHP functions, filters, and actions, and they have some JavaScript events and methods. So these are good for programmers. And then if we look at the guides, they have a guide for creating a grid, a card, a facet, for filtering, for the REST API, for using shortcodes and blocks. Some of these, though, I think are pretty basic steps, but the one for creating a card, like I said, I kind of looked at this, and it does have some good information, but there isn't really a step-by-step here. So I think it would be nice if there were a video or something showing you how to create a card and the different options on that. But anyway, there is documentation, and they also have a programmer's API. That's what I wanted to show you from their website. Okay, now for discussion and conclusions. Let's start with the cons. I saw 2 in working with this. The first was it took a while to figure out the process, and there are a lot of steps and settings. And I guess that's the nature of power tools, and this is definitely a power tool. Some walkthrough videos or step-by-step tutorials on some of the more difficult areas like card building would help people get up to speed quicker. And the second con was, there was no way to preview the demo cards. And I think maybe having a section on their website where you could see what the different demos were would make it so you didn't have to import all of them to find one that you wanted to use. So the WP Grid Builder is not really a plugin for new users, and it's going to require some work and patience. In terms of the pros, WP Grid Builder I thought was very attractive. The building screens are attractive, and the output is attractive. The plugin is very flexible. It has Gutenberg, Elementor, and Oxygen Builder supported out of the box. Although I didn't show it, you can add custom fields to the cards. And as I did show, you can use custom fields for front-end filters. True, there are a lot of steps and options in the Grid Builder, but you also have a lot of control. The documentation talks about 3 types of layout: masonry, metro, and justified. However, there's also that 4th layout option, which is you can set up your cards to work in a carousel. It was clear to me that starting with the demos is a huge time saver. If you intend to build your own cards from scratch, then I recommend you start by reverse engineering some of the demos. As you saw when I created the grid and facet for books, once you have something to start from and have a sense of the steps, the process you need to go through, then you can move through it really quickly. I was impressed by the level of detail. For example, the ability to apply different cards to different types of content, like audio, image, video, and to different post formats. This, together with a good number of facet types, 13, means that you can work with a lot of different types of content, such as blog content, directory listings, WooCommerce, etc. There are a number of options in WordPress for creating a grid or listing of multiple records. There are some that work with custom post types. It's pretty rare, though, to find ones where you can incorporate custom fields, and there are only a few that offer front-end filters or facets. I think it's clear from this walkthrough that the pros really outweigh the cons, and that WP Grid Builder is a good option that ticks all of the boxes. So if you don't already have a good, attractive, powerful, and flexible grid and facet solution, then WP Grid Builder is going to be worth taking a look at. So that's my walkthrough and review of WP Grid Builder. There's a text version of this video available on the WebTNG website, along with other walkthroughs, reviews, and resources. I hope you found this video useful. Thank you for watching.